Chapter 7. As I said initially, the world looks somewhat askance at any layman who becomes overt in his display of spiritual objectives. It seems obvious some Christians delight in being called fanatics. They consider themselves a heavenly people, so much so that, as one pulpit wit once put it, they become of little earthly good. For myself, since the time of my conversion, I have believed faith should be compatible to life rather than transcendent to it. Let me re-emphasize my conviction that God intends the Christian experience to be the full, rich, satisfying, believable life. No amount of wealth or accomplishment or prestige can possibly give to a man the inner satisfaction possessed by the blue-collar man who has linked his life to Jesus Christ in a transforming relationship. Kings and presidents, artists and tycoons, all have an inner need which only Christ can satisfy. "I am come that you might have life," Jesus said, "and that you might have it more abundantly." My daily thirst is for this abundant life. To have it, however, one dare not make of himself some kind of otherworldly oddity. True, we must be intent upon our Master's business as well as our own, but God put the laws of sales psychology into this world not so Milwaukee could sell more beer, but so you and I could attract men to the Savior. You can understand, then, the trepidation I felt as I contemplated the transfer of our stock into a non-profit religious foundation. I could hear people say, "Hi-oh, Silver, this Tam guy has really crossed his wires. He's not only gone fanatic, he's gone crazy." I've got a lot of personal pride. I want people to think well of me, and I don't like the idea of walking down the street and having someone look at me and point a spinning finger at his head. But what does the Bible say? "Lay not up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." Did Jesus mean these words? Are they applicable to you and me? If so, ought we to obey them? I believe the answer to all three questions is yes. From the outset of our Tamco business, I had been a tither. Juanita and I still tithe the personal salary received from our business. But as one steward once aptly put it, the question isn't how much money I give to God, but how much of God's money I keep for myself. For He made us, gave us our talents, our health, the very raw materials with which we work. "The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof," the psalmist wrote. "The world and all they that dwell therein." What's more, the Apostle Paul tells us, "We are laborers together with God, created unto good works." But before I proceed further, let me once again caution you. I'm Stanley Tam. You are you. God has a plan for my life. He has a plan for yours. He is the same God, but we aren't the same individuals, and He deals with each of us personally, intricately, specifically. The obedience He asks of me and the obedience He asks of you will in each case be tailored to our specific needs and our qualities and, more strategically, to His perfect will for each of our lives. In my case, I had an insatiable thirst to make money. I love it. I like to promote, to see the company grow. I study our yearly and interim reports like a hungry hawk, evaluating, discovering, making checks and counterchecks. I'm interested in investments too, and have been fortunate in making a number of profitable selections. God knew my inner hungers, and when I told Him I wanted to turn my life over to Him completely, He took me at my word. He began to set into motion forces which would lead me step by step into the fulfillment of His plan for me. Some may scoff at the prospect of God selecting a man's prime weaknesses as the area in which he is to exhibit his foremost stewardship, and I admit to some disturbing moments on this score. But it is in the triumph over weakness that the grace of God becomes most manifest. Your strength is made perfect in weakness, our Lord tells us. The divine artistry makes an ill-tempered person gracious, a talkative woman poised, a promiscuous man moral, a selfish individual generous. For we must never forget that God is in the people-changing business. In my case, God knew my yen for making money. Had he left me undisturbed in this area, I could have become a proud, materialistic, self-centered spiritual misfit. But somehow I had found the wisdom to tell God he could have full control of me. I meant it, and God took me at my word. Thus, in asking of me the submission of the greatest drive in my life, the thirst for making money, he removed a blighting influence and replaced it with inner peace and satisfaction such as I could never have otherwise known. This was what I really wanted, what every thinking person wants: inner peace and satisfaction. But I had to be obedient to his guidance. In my case, it meant carefully disciplined stewardship. I have no doubt but that other men may be able to run their businesses in the usual manner and be just as committed to God in the way they use their money. With me, however, it was a matter of nailing down the commitment. Thus the day came when we walked into a lawyer's office and outlined our plan. He listened, dumbfounded. When I finished, he said, "Young man, you have a commendable attitude to want to give the church half your money, but you and your wife are young. You need to plan for some security." "I realize that, sir," I said. "Now, I'm not a financial counselor. Perhaps you've talked with a banker about this. You do realize, of course, how small your business is, even struggling. Who knows, you may never have much in the way of profits to think about." "I expect the business to grow." "I'm sure you do, but frankly, as an attorney, I can't be party to this type of thing. Why don't you think it over for a while, say 3 months, and then come back and talk to me? Then you won't draw up papers for me?" "I can't, Mr. Tam. Not now. I'm sorry." "What is the charge for your counsel?" "No charge." I thanked him and left. "What are you going to do?" my wife asked. "See another attorney," I told her. As soon as possible, I made the second appointment, trying this time to be more diplomatic with my presentation. "My request is going to be a bit out of the usual," I began. "I get a lot of unusual cases," the lawyer said pleasantly. My spirits lifted. "Well, sir, the situation is this. I'm in business. It's a small business, but it's growing, and I have every reason to believe it will one day be quite large." "That doesn't sound like much of a problem," the lawyer said, smiling warmly. "You see," I continued, "I'm a Christian. My faith is very vital to me. What I have is a direct result of God's special intervention on my behalf. So what happens in the future also depends directly upon his blessing. What I'd like to do, the real reason I'm here, is that I'd like to make God my senior partner." He looked aghast. My spirits ebbed. "I'd like you to make out a legal paper," I continued, "whatever's necessary, to the effect that my wife and I are turning over 51% of our business to the Lord." "Well, young man," he said pensively, after a lagging silence, "you have a wonderful attitude, to want to give the church half your money." It was as though he had a recorder in his throat playing back the first attorney's sentiments. "I've heard this before," I complained impatiently. "You're the second lawyer I've consulted. The first attorney refused to draw up the paper you requested?" "That's right." "Well, I'm afraid this one must render the same decision." "But I'm rational," I argued. "This is something my wife and I have thought through carefully. We've asked God for guidance and are sure of his direction. Haven't we a right, then, to take whatever legal steps we find necessary?" He looked at me, not speaking. "I don't want to seem abrasive," I continued, "but I've got to have a paper drawn up, so I guess all I can do is sit here until you agree to do it." He smiled, wanly. "You're serious about this, aren't you?" he said. "Dead serious." He pondered a moment. "Please help me," I pleaded. "Well," he said slowly, "I suppose the problem is that men like me are in business not because people want to serve God the way you seem to do, but because so many people are prone to break God's laws." "You'll help me?" I prodded. He was quiet another moment. Then he said, "I tell you what I'll do. Even this is against my better judgment, but I'll make out your will. I'll put your wishes into your will." "But I'm young. I could live another 60 years." He chuckled. "That wouldn't exactly be a catastrophe, now would it?" Growing serious, he added, "Shall I draw up the will? That's the best I can do for now." With considerable hesitation, I agreed to his suggestion. "I just don't understand it," I told my wife that night. We sat at the table, about to spend a few moments in the Bible, reading and praying, as had been our custom since marriage. "What's so abnormal about me? I'm a human being. I love you as intensely as any man can love his wife. I like good food, a comfortable house, decent clothes, a good car. So why can't it be just as normal to want God to have the key spot in our business?" "Don't be discouraged." "I'm trying not to be. You did the best you could. God knows that. Maybe what happened today was the first step He intended you to take." "We've got to obey God, sweetheart." "Did we disobey Him today?" "No, but—" "Then let today stand for itself." "I love you," I whispered, and reached for her hand. "We live in a mixed-up world, Stanley. It's a dark world with a lot of confused, frightened people in it. But we're different, not because of who we are or anything we've done, but because of our relationship to God." "Keep talking. I need it." "God has a plan for our lives, for yours especially. I'm so sure of it. Don't doubt. Let Him lead you, an event at a time. Let Him make you an example worthy of the scrutiny of others, of people who are looking so desperately for answers these days. Maybe our lives can give out a little light to help some of these poor folks discover what we've found." "I love you," I whispered again. "Read." I opened the Bible. We had just begun reading in Proverbs, the book that has given me a lot of counsel throughout the years. "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not unto your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He shall direct your path." It was good to know.